Half a day students, I am Governor Lou Leon Guerrero. You all have been through a year of big changes. We've had to adapt and make big changes to keep our families and our island safe. But with change comes opportunity and a chance to try new things like PBS University. While Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and I will continue to do our part to keep our island safe, you students have a part to play as well. Your part is to keep learning and to keep up with your lessons. That's why I am happy to see you here ready to learn with PBS University. PBS University is a way to bring a continuous educational curriculum to you while you stay safe at home during this time. To help you keep up with your studies, we asked our friends at PBS Guam and the Guam Department of Education to put together this episode. Thank you for doing your part and have a great lesson.
Buenas and half a day, Guahu Roland Santos. I am with Farm to Table Guam. We are a nonprofit organization. We actually run an organic farm here. We focus on organic methods, and yeah, our organization just really supports the local agriculture industry. We really want to inspire more people to grow their own food, grow food as a source of income, and just following organic practices. That way we can actually help our earth as we are growing food and commodities for the island. So right here we actually have a compost pile, and this is something that everyone could do at home. I think this is also a really important aspect to not just farming but a way of life. So let me just start off by explaining how a compost system works. Our compost is comprised of a lot of browns and a lot of nutrient sources, nitrogen sources, which is basically food waste. A lot of food that doesn't go to market or that doesn't sell, they rot, obviously. So rather than dumping them in the landfill, we are actually converting that into nutrients for more of our plants. So what we do is we actually mix 2 parts nitrogen, which is our food waste, and 1 part browns, which is dried leaves, dried twigs. We use cardboard, we use paper mulch or shredded paper. So anything and everything that's dry, that is a natural source, we actually use as our compost. So you can see an example over here. So what we'll do is we'll actually bury a lot of our green waste or nitrogen waste into our browns, our dried leaves. And what happens in the compost pile is all of the microbes that are present in there, they will actually start eating the food waste. So our compost pile actually gets to about 140 degrees. It gets really hot inside. And basically the heat is coming from all of the microbes working together and eating all of the green waste that we put in there. So it's basically like they're all running a marathon in there. So they're getting super hot. It gets to 140 degrees, and that's the goal. We want it to get to 140 degrees. That temperature will actually kill a lot of the weed seeds that will compete with our plants in the grow field. It'll also kill a lot of disease-causing pathogens. So getting it to the right temperature is super important, but it's not essential to making good compost. Even if it doesn't reach 140 degrees, as long as your food waste isn't hitting the landfill and it's actually hitting the compost to create more more growing medium, I think that is a win. What happens with the food waste if we dump it in the landfill is it just gets piled and piled and piled. The more food waste, more trash, more debris, and it doesn't compost properly. When food degrades, they release methane gas into the air, and that just it speeds up our climate change. It speeds up our greenhouse gases. So when it goes into the landfill, it just stays there and it gets buried and buried. It never composts. It never breaks down into living soil. It just stays there decaying and releasing methane gas. And sooner or later, you realize that the land is unusable. The land is a landfill. So what we're doing is we're taking what could have been in the landfill and ruining our environment, and we're creating beautiful, nutritious food for our plants. So if you notice, once we start actually raking out, you could see the center and the core is turning into some beautiful black dirt. And it's actually pretty hot right now. So it's still decomposing. And we want it to continue to decompose and become more soil, and then we actually start dumping this into our fields to feed the plants, feed the microbes. It contains a whole bunch of microbes in there that will continue to help the plants. So this is definitely a practice that I would suggest to anybody and everybody, whether you're a farmer, a gardener, or just an avid planter. Creating a compost pile is very useful, and there's a lot of resources that you can find over the internet of different types of compost systems that may work for you. You can even get earthworms to help compost your food waste, and that produces a whole lot of microbes that actually benefit the land and benefit the soil. Not to mention, the more healthier the plant, the more resistant it is to disease and pests. So having a healthy biological system for your farm or your garden is really important. It not only helps the soil, but it helps the plant continue to thrive and continue to produce for us. In addition to composting, I'm gonna show you some compost tea that we brew, and I'll explain why compost tea is really important as well. I showed you our compost bin over there and how we make our compost. Now, what we also do with that compost is we actually brew a compost tea. Ultimately, what we're doing is we're taking a handful of compost, and for example, that handful of compost has about 100 microbes in it. So what we're doing is we're taking that handful of compost with 100 microbes and we're putting it in this bucket. And we're not only putting the microbes in there, but we're adding fish emulsion, which is a really good source of nitrogen. And we are adding unsulfured molasses. It has to be unsulfured, but this is basically sugar for the microbes to eat. So the fish emulsion and the molasses actually acts as food for the microbes. And what we're doing with the 100 microbes that we put in this bucket is we're feeding them, and we want them to replicate and reproduce. So we gave them the food, and yeah, we let it sit for 24 to 48 hours. And what you find is it starts to foam up right over here. So we had just started this brew this morning, so it's already starting to foam. That foam is actually a really good sign that our compost tea is alive with microbiology. Basically, that foam indicates that the microbes in there are actually eating, and they're burping and farting, basically. So that is a good sign that we are replicating and reproducing more microbes. So that 100 microbes in my hand that I put in there had now replicated to and reproduced to about 1,000 microbes. So unfortunately, we're not able to produce enough compost itself for the entire farm. So this is one way that we can keep up with continuing to spread the microbes on the farm. The microbes act as a chef for our plants. What the microbes actually do is they take minerals and they take nutrients that are unavailable to our plants, and they actually break it down and feed the plants readily available food. And like I said before, the microbes will feed the plant will produce sugars, the plant will use the sugars to continue to grow, and it'll actually put sugars back into our soil to feed the microbes again. So reinforcing the cycle that nature really works together. And if we get the biology right, if we get the soil living and healthy, we can actually grow bigger, better, stronger plants. And the flavor of the plants will actually come out more. It'll be a lot more flavorful when it's grown with healthy soil. So that is our compost tea in a nutshell.
My name is Chelsea Munya. I'm from the village of Manila, but now live in Talafofo with my family. It was actually kind of serendipity. I've always been concerned about, health and holistic healing and things like that. And I saw a flyer that UOG was selling baby chicks. So I went and bought 8 baby chicks. Initially I thought I'd start with 4, and then I got all excited when I was there, so it became 8. And I wanted to raise them for my family, so we could just start off with growing our own eggs. And then I'd start planting basil. It was a kind of an evolution where at one point I realized I'd been studying different agriculture components or curriculum for 10 years. And I didn't realize that much time had lapsed, or that's what I'd been doing. I was just kind of interested and started learning things. And it just became part of our life. It wasn't really that we were farming. It's just how we wanted to live, was growing our own produce. And if we were going to eat chickens, then I wanted to raise our own chickens so that we could guarantee that they were clean and safe for us. So it became more of a life choice rather than just farming. No one in our family had ever farmed, which is kind of what made it more of an aha moment when I realized how much I'd been learning about it. My boys, when we first started raising hens for eggs, it became their job, and they could keep the money from all the eggs that we sold. My youngest, Zen, he'd prefer to be outside over inside any given day, any given moment, whether it's day or night. He loves following his dad around, and his dad is what made this property grow into what it is now. We have the basic trees: avocado, mango, laguna, achoti, lemons, calamansi, lemonchina, key lime, Malabar spinach, Tongan spinach, kangkung, star apples, rose apples, moringa, mulberries, papayas, jackfruit. There's even a durian tree back there, pineapples, hot peppers, coconut, pugwa, lemongrass, basil, dill, and I'm sure there's stuff I'm forgetting, but that's just some of it. The more I studied about farming and how you grow things, I was introduced to the book One Straw Revolution. In that book I learned about the diversity and the harmony that you try to keep in whatever you're growing. And that always brings me back to what I learned from a friend of mine, Rita Nalta with Guampedia, is that Chamorro culture is based on living in harmony with nature and with those around you. The idea of monocropping is a Western concept, and that's kind of what's led to the state of corporate agriculture and, the devastation on the land and soil, and making it harder for farmers to recoup when there's a storm or something to recover from, is because you're only growing one thing. But when you have a diversity existing in your property, then nature kind of takes care of itself, and you have less pests, you have less invasive species, you have less sickness that can impact your produce or whatever you're growing, because the diversity is what strengthens everything around. When it was first created, the department had a substantial role in agriculture. It was well funded, it was well supported by the legislative and administrative segments of the government, and it provided resources and support to help farmers get started. They could lease land, they could lease equipment, they had a loan program. It's shifted a lot since then. The department became one of the lowest funded agencies in the government. I recently discovered that in the section that helps farmers itself, Agriculture Development Services, there are professional positions, and then there are tech positions which help support the professionals. The last time they hired a professional position in that section was 1991. That was 30 years ago, basically. We just hired 3 new positions, or filled 3 new positions this year. So this is the first time that anyone's been hired since 1991 for that one section specifically created to help farmers. So I think that kind of tells you how much support has been put behind the agency and its purpose. And we recently were awarded a grant to provide small grants to farmers and nonprofit organizations specifically designed for farming or agriculture. So we hope to make that a recurring program for farmers in our community. I came in wanting to use the agency as a kind of as a platform, and I saw an opportunity where we could change how we farm and how we do agriculture here. For me, I understood about wanting diversity, and in talking with the division chief, it was so refreshing and relieving to realize he understood and had the same thoughts. Like, he had the same concepts in mind about how to farm and wanting to shift or make that shift. Whatever you think you want to accomplish or grow, you can, and just try, because you never know. I mean, we've got pineapples standing next to pugo trees, you know, and lemongrass and mango growing where we drain our water from the outside kitchen sink. Allow yourself to be creative so that you don't get stuck thinking you need rows and rows and rows of one thing, but rather you should have circles and figure eights or straight lines in certain areas of just different things. It's absolutely not as hard as you think it has to be. The idea that the farmer has to wake up at the crack of dawn to go out and work all day in the sun, it's just not true. At least for me, that's what we found, and we don't have to live that way. If you want to think egocentric, it's healthier for you. It's healthy for you and your family, and in the long run, it's on the larger scale, it's better for the environment, it's better for the planet. It becomes cheaper for you and your family, and you help support your local economy to strengthen your schools, your infrastructure, you know, to have better roads. It all comes back to you if you're buying from your local farmer, and everything just tastes better no matter what it is you're growing. What I would hope to see are just thousands of little farms with biodiversity, and you hear birds, and you have ducks eating all your slugs, and the ladybugs eating other pests, and bees buzzing around fertilizing or pollinating everything. You have chickens giving you manure, and carabaos, and everyone helping to feed everyone. We just need to be able to have that shift in mindset.
All right, and so what we have here are chickens that we are raising. We're actually raising some brown layers. So again, adding to trying to keep our island sustainable trying to keep our island sustainable within our agriculture. We really want to provide local eggs as well. But the main reason these chickens are here isn't for their eggs. What we really want to do is actually collect the bedding that the chickens are here ultimately pooping on. The chicken poo is actually really good fertilizer. So we mix a bunch of wood chips and some shredded paper, and in 6 months we'll actually collect all of this litter, and we will start composting it and feeding our soil. It has a lot of nutrition, so again, we practice organic methods, and this is probably one of the best fertilizers we can actually put for our plants and for our soil. It really increases microbiology. It gives food for our microbes in our soil, which the microbes will actually feed the plant. And I'll be discussing more about microbes as we talk about composting. But I think having chickens on your farm or any type of livestock is really invaluable to the farm. It's producing fertilizer that we can use. It also produces food. And to be honest, having chickens around is very therapeutic. Now, that's with chickens in the cage. I want to talk about a little bit of IPM. That's our integrated pest management. Now, we do have these chickens that are wonderful. They are caged. But if we walk down a little bit further over here, on this side of our chicken coop, we actually have a whole bunch of wild chickens on this side. Now, a lot of people think a lot of people wouldn't think chickens as pests, but these chickens are actually ruining a lot of our fields. They scratch up our grow beds. They actually chew up a lot of our vegetables. So what we do is we actually catch the wild chickens that are ruining our fields. So we actually put them in a cage where they're able to roam freely. It's not a small cage. We are definitely trying to keep them humanely here. But we do feed them, and they are actually providing more nutrients for us. So we're building fertilizer, and we're keeping them away from our fields to really protect our plants and really protect our soil. So this is a pest management that we practice here. We catch a lot of these wild chickens that ruin our fields and just use them for fertilizer. What we have here is actually neem oil. This is one of the sprays that we do use here to help with our pest management. Neem oil is actually a natural occurring oil that they actually get from the neem seed of a neem tree. So it is natural. It is already grown on the trees. And what it is it is a natural fungicide. So a lot of our fungal bacteria that will hit our plants, that will actually kill our plants, this will actually help prevent it and actually help cure it. Now, another pesticide that we use is Safer soap. Now, Safer soap is basically Castile soap. So when we have things like mealybugs, aphids, the soap on it will actually touch that soft-bodied insect and will actually kill it on contact. When I see mealybugs on our tomatoes or on our eggplant, I'll do an application of Safer soap, and in about 2 days, all I see is the white little mark where that mealybug was. So Safer soap, and again, it's nothing but Castile soap. I could wash my hands with it and it will not harm me. It is non-toxic. It's okay, so one thing that is my favorite is BT. Basically, BT stands for Bacillus thuringiensis. I know it's a hard word to pronounce, but we just call it BT. You might even find it at a local hardware store just listed as BT. I don't expect anybody to actually pronounce it really well. But what BT is it is actually a natural spore. So what we do is we actually spray our plants with the BT, and it's basically a powder that our insects will actually eat the leaf that has the BT powder on it. And what the BT does is it kills the insect from the inside out. Now, the reason also, again, this is a natural occurring spore, but it is non-toxic to humans. So this is one of my favorites that actually helps with grasshoppers. It helps with caterpillars that always eats a lot of our citrus trees, our banana leaves, and our tomatoes. The tomato hornworm, this is my #1 spray to help get rid of that pest. Now, again, we only use natural, organic, natural occurring substances when we spray, but that doesn't mean that it's safe for everything. We also have a lot of bees here on the farm that work overtime to help pollinate our plants, to help produce more fruits, more vegetables for us. So what we do is we definitely spray before sunrise, or we spray at sundown. This is the time when the bees are less active. Not only do we want to protect our bees, but we want to protect our plants. When we spray our plants in the middle of the day, the sun is at its hottest. When you see a droplet of water on the leaf and the sun is out at full force, what happens is that droplet acts as a magnifying glass. So you could imagine how a magnifying glass would feel with it just right on your arm. So we don't want to do that to our plants. So that's why we choose that time of day to spray, either early morning or late afternoon or even sundown. So that is one of our main reasons why we use this organic pest control, is not only to help our plants grow, but also to help our environment. When we're spraying chemicals and synthetic pesticides, we're not just killing the animals, but we're also killing a lot of life that's around our area. One thing that we really don't want to contribute to is actually leaching chemicals into our soil, killing our biology, our healthy living soil. We don't want anything to actually get into our aquifers to poison our drinking water for our future generations. So we try to keep everything natural, and we try to make nature work in unison with each other. We also do some other companion planting, such as marigolds next to some of our plants that pests love. The marigolds actually act as a natural pesticide also. They exude a certain smell that a lot of pests don't like. So it'll actually chase away some of the pests. But there are also some marigold varieties that will actually help with our soil biology. They will keep pests at bay that will actually eat the roots of our plants. All right, so this is another companion plant that we like to do on the farm. I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but these are our Nemagon marigolds. They actually help keep the nematodes, the root knot nematodes, at bay, but they also produce a smell that a lot of pests that actually attack our kale and attack our tomatoes at bay. They have a smell that just chases away the pests. The pests just don't like the smell of these guys, especially when you rub them and actually give them a little brush like that. You could smell the marigolds coming out of them. Now, one thing that we like to do with the marigolds is not just as pest control or pest management, but they produce some beautiful flowers, and they're not in bloom right now. This is still a new new plant, but they produce a beautiful yellow marigold flower. What we actually did with the flowers is we gave them as gifts to a lot of our subscribers for our CSA program, our community supported agriculture program, and we gave it to them for Mother's Day. So not only do they help keep the pests, but they really brighten up our day and they brighten up people's lives. So it serves a lot of purposes. And again, it's all natural, it's nature, and yeah, it's just it's wonderful the way nature works.
Hafa students, I'm Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. For more than a year now, you all have continued to wash your hands and watch your distance from others, and you've done a really great job wearing your masks. We know your parents and guardians have helped you to make these changes to keep yourself and your community safe. As Governor Leon Guerrero said, we are happy you are here. We want you to continue to learn and sharpen your skills with the help of PBS University. This program is the result of a collaborative effort. We couldn't do it alone. I'd like to thank the teachers and support staff of the Guam Department of Education and PBS Guam for their work and their commitment to our students. I'd also like to thank you students for participating at home. To your parents, I'd like to thank you for taking an active role in your child's education. We are all eager to return to a time when all of us can share and study together in person. Until then, we hope you learned something new from this PBS University instruction.